Hi, welcome to Vegetables, day 52. So today was spent mostly just watching The Truth About Weight Loss Summit. No, I didn't get a haircut. It's up in a bun. And then I just went to the drugstore to pick up medicine that I hope to get rid of. I did spend quite a bit of time today talking with my husband, Scott. Gotta remember to call him Scott, not my husband, because he has a name. It's what he says. At any rate, so Scott and I talked a lot about our diet again, and we're both really motivated to change our lives. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So, on that note, I did weigh myself this morning. I didn't write it down, but I believe if I remember right, it was 239 point something. And then I just weighed myself, and it was 241.3. Yay! I'm getting there, slowly but surely. But, it's... to quote one of the speakers today, weight loss is a journey, not a race. So as long as I'm headed in the right direction, it doesn't matter how long it takes me. And I know research, I've read before, I don't remember where, but I've read before that research has shown that the people who lose the weight more slowly are more likely to keep it off. So, as far as eating then, for breakfast I had peanut butter and banana oatmeal. I did have the almond coconut blend nut milk on it. And I sweetened it with honey, which is not near as sweet as the maple syrup. And it was really good. And I didn't have anything with it. There was, for the longest time, I always thought I'd have to have something with it. So I'd either have like an egg sandwich or toast or a piece of breakfast meat. I didn't have to today. And I didn't 2 days ago either. So, as a matter of fact, I didn't yesterday. I forgot I could. I write it down every day, and this was a lot yesterday's, and right now I'm looking at today's. So, that was the positive change that I've made. It was almost vegan. I say almost because it was honey. It had honey. And then for lunch, I had a vegetarian chili. And it was a new product, a new canned soup that I found at the store. And I bought it because it was vegetarian. Get it home and realize it has over 1,000 milligrams of salt. I'm like, ugh, oh well. So I ate it anyway. And just to make it taste, I tasted it just plain, and it was very, very acidic. And didn't really have much flavor. It had a bunch of heat from the spices, but it just basically tasted like vinegar. It wasn't very good at all. So to make it palatable, I added cheese, sour cream, and crackers. And I was able to tolerate it then. But that's all I had for lunch, was just that bowl of cereal. And then for a snack, I had a banana. And then for dinner, let me get that. I had another Everplate dinner. I had this one today. And it has, the potato wedges were Yukon Gold potatoes. It had green peppers, onions, fry seasoning, panko breadcrumbs, but I'll explain that in a minute. Ground beef, pepper jack cheese, and Dijon mustard. And then that's what came in the box. And then out of your cupboard / refrigerator, you needed salt, black pepper, butter, vegetable oil, ketchup, and brown sugar. And first I have you cut the potatoes in wedges, and then thinly slice the bell pepper and onions into strips. You toss the potatoes with a drizzle of oil. I measured it. I used 1 teaspoon. And then a teaspoon of the fry seasoning, salt and pepper. So instead of me doing it on the pan, instead of me putting it on a baking sheet, I tossed it in a bowl, and then I cooked it in my air fryer. They turned out really good. Really good. So that's how I changed that. And that's one thing I started to learn about cooking potatoes, is that they supposedly turn out really good if you put them in the air fryer rather than the oven. And they're they take just about as long though. So I don't know, they were good. And then you take the ground beef, panko breadcrumbs, in the remaining fry seasoning and more salt and pepper, and you mix that to combine. Well, I get all the way through the recipe, or make meatloaves and such, put them in the oven, and start cooking the green peppers and onions. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is supposed to have panko breadcrumbs. Where was that at? Guess what? Even though I read the directions several times, I missed the fact that you were supposed to put the panko breadcrumbs in the beef. But I cooked it and it turned out fine without them. So you didn't need them. Saved calories, saved salt, saved flour, which would turn just to sugar anyway. So I actually, kind of made them a little healthier. So not bad. But then you flatten the meat out and put half of the pepper jack cheese on top, and then you basically, just fold it up and wrap the cheese inside the little miniature meatloaf. It turned out to be really more like a big meatball than it was a meatloaf, but and then while the meatloaf's baked and the potatoes were cooking in the air fryer, I sauteed the bell pepper and onion. And one of today's presenters was TME from Nutmeg Notebook. And I been trying to learn how to saute my vegetables without oil. And so she was, when I was listening to her presentation, she was, sauteing vegetables. And so she said that the trick is to do it on low heat and only add water if they're really sticking. So I wanted to try that. So I did that and it worked. So not only did I save calories with not putting the panko breadcrumbs in, I also saved calories by not having the drizzle of oil in the peppers and onions. But then, you just saute the pepper and onions until they're tender and a little bit caramelized. And then they wanted you to add 2 tablespoons of water, which when you're sauteing without oil, you add water occasionally anyway. So, following, nutmeg notebooks directions. You add water anyway. I'm like, I don't need the oil, so I left it out. But then it did have you, once they were tender, you season with salt and pepper and then stir in 1 tablespoon of butter. And I did do that, but quite frankly, I probably would have enjoyed them just as much, if not better, if I'd left the butter out. Because it just kind of didn't really add that much flavor to them. It just kind of made them slimy. So if and when I make this recipe again, which I sure will because it was delicious, I will probably not add that tablespoon of butter. And then once the meatloaves had cooked or baked 20 minutes, it had you cover it with a ketchup glaze. And the glaze was supposed to be the brown mustard, the Dijon mustard that they gave you, plus ketchup and brown sugar. Well, instead of brown sugar, I added honey, and it worked great. It says here, if you don't have brown sugar, you can substitute white sugar. And I'm like, well, if you can substitute white sugar for the brown sugar, why not honey? And I did. And it was good. It was really good. So then, after they cooked for 20 minutes, you put the glaze on top, topped with the remaining cheese, and then put it back in the oven and, cook the meatloaves till they were up to temperature, and ground beef fully cooked when internal temperature reaches 160 degrees. And then, served it with potato wedges that I cooked in the air fryer, and topped it with green peppers and onions that were sauteed, and it was really good. Wasn't quite enough. They only gave us, they say a serving is 4 ounces. So it was only 8 ounces of meat. So I did, make sure they were above 4 ounces, but that equated to not a miniature meatloaf. It equated to a meatball. 1 meatball. So, serving was a little small, but I had a lot of green peppers and onions left over. So my grandson had a Jack's cheese pizza and he didn't eat it all. So I took a little small wedge of that and put some more of the peppers and onions on top. Yum. It was still good. Made the pizza taste a lot better. But and then I did finish the rest of on the foil that I cooked the meatloaf in, there was some glazed and cheese left over. They had, melted off the top. So I just used that, mixed it in with the little bit that I had left, ate that, and I'm full. I was really surprised. Really surprised that even that, the little bit of peppers and onions filled me up so much. But, that's what I've been learning all week, is when you get the non-starchy vegetables, and you can eat a whole bunch of them, and they're very filling. So that brings me to yesterday's Truth About Weight Loss Summit. If you're new, I'm running running a day behind on my reviews because a couple days ago I really struggled to get through the presentations and to take notes, and so I spent the next day, instead of working and making notes on yesterday, struggled with it. So yesterday, or day before yesterday, I skipped a review. So today's review is on yesterday's, which would be day 7 or 8? 7, because today was 8, yesterday was day 8, because today's last date was day 9. And the first presenter was Dr. Greger, and he His presentation was on the research of do's and don'ts, as well as natural appetite suppressants. And to be quite frank, it was more of a review of his book, How Not to Diet, but it was a very short, condensed version of it, and did hit a lot of the high points. And the first thing that researchers have told us is that our genes have not changed. What's changed is our food. And that, and it was mentioned a couple days ago that food scientists work on the foods to get just the right combo of fat, sugar, and salt to get the level of bliss for our reward centers. And then, we talked about how obesity is not a disease, but a symptom of a metabolic disorder. That was in the presentation a couple days ago. But Dr. Greger said that obesity is normal, in that it's a normal response to an abnormal environment. Chef AJ asked him about whether or not obesity is hereditary, and he said that it's not bad genetics that are passed down through the family, and it's the bad diets. And I've heard that before. It's what I've heard is that, and it may have been him in his book, the way I read it, that, like you said, genes don't change. And you may be one person may be more may have more of a predisposition to be overweight, but the fact that you're overweight is due to your environment and not your genes. Okay, so then the next thing he mentioned was that for people who lose weight, even through surgery, even if they don't change their diet, they did still have lower disease. So that, that says to me that even if you have weight loss surgery, as long as you keep the weight off and stay thin, it still puts you at a lower risk for diseases. Because, your body's not in that constant state of inflammation. He said that it's a myth that a calorie is a calorie, because 100 calories of chickpeas have a different effect on your body than 100 calories of chicken. Because it's what your body absorbs, not the calories themselves. So there's a lot more, nutrients, phytochemicals in the chickpeas than there is in chicken, as well as fiber. Fiber makes a huge difference. And then one of the other speakers, I don't believe I've gone over her yet, but he agreed with her in that when and how we eat affects how calories are absorbed regardless of the source. So even if you do eat that pound of chicken or 100 calories of chicken, your body absorbs it differently depending on how it's cooked and when we eat it. And then if you ever start watching Dr. Greger's nutritionfacts.org YouTube channel, or if you go to, just go to the website, and I'll put a link to the website in the description box below. But one of his favorite phrases are, "We don't know until we put it to the test." So, when diets were put to the test, researchers found that no other diet achieved the level of weight loss than a whole foods plant-based diet. Love Dr. Greger. He's a little hard to get used to because of his syncopation when he talks. But once you get past that, very intelligent man. And has a brain full of research. But that's what he does. He admits that he'll sit in his basement for hours on end combing through the research. And he does that so we don't have to. And the more you watch Dr. Greger, you'll understand why I said that way. And then he reiterated the concept that you cannot outrun a bad diet, because you can spend an hour working out and maybe burn 100 or 200 calories, but how long does it take you to eat that? Within seconds. So within seconds, you just ate what you just burned. So, to me, that also reinforces the concept that, working out and exercise is not a very effective tool to help you lose weight. It helps. It is important, very important, for other aspects of your health, but not for weight loss. It's really ineffective. And then he said that the only reason that we care about appetite is if it translates into eating less later on. So that's when we're talking about natural appetite suppressants. Researchers found that if you eat beans for dinner, not only do you eat less the rest of the day, but you eat less for lunch the next day. So, and that's what a lot of some of his research, and he covers, like I said, he covers it in his book, How Not to Diet. So if, again, it goes back to what you eat and when you eat it makes a huge difference. So I think that concept is very interesting, that you can time what you eat. And it can affect not only what you eat in the next meal or the rest of the day, but some foods can affect how much you eat the next day. And yeah, he has a really, off sense of humor. And he concluded that with, "The proof is in the pudding. Don't eat the pudding." No, wait a minute. Let me re-say that correctly, because this is a quote of Dr. Greger. He said, "The proof is in the pudding. The proof is, don't eat the pudding. Unless it's made from fruit," as AJ said. So then the last little bit was talking about his 21 tweaks to accelerate loss of body fat. And that is where his app comes in. It's just a moment. What's it called? It's called the Daily Dozen app. And the Daily Dozen are 12 things that he recommends that you eat and do every day to get healthy. and it's from his How Not to Die book. But How Not to Diet then is a 12-21 tweaks. So these are tweaks to his original recommendations to accelerate weight loss and to give natural appetite suppressants. And I'm not for sure if he covered them all in the presentation, but just a quick look in his app. He talks about preloading with water, time your metabolism, boosting 2 cups of cool or cold unflavored water before each meal to also take advantage of its preload benefits. In addition to preloading with water, he recommends a negative calorie preload. And as the first course, start each meal with an apple or a green light soup or salad containing fewer than 100 calories per cup. And the reason it's called negative calories, a negative calorie, is because it actually takes your body more calories to digest that food than the food contains. So his example is if you have 100 calorie food, like a banana or an apple, and it takes 300 calories to burn that apple, to digest that apple, you're at a negative 200 calories. So that's the concept. The research is, quite honestly, from what I have read about negative calorie foods, the research is still kind of out on that. But then he also recommends incorporating vinegar, 2 teaspoons with each meal. But he does caution you to never drink vinegar straight. Instead, flavor meals or dress a side salad with any of the sweet and savory vinegars. If you want to drink it, make sure to mix it in a glass of water, and afterward, be sure to rinse your mouth out with water to protect your tooth and enamel. His next tweak is Undistracted Meals. Don't eat while watching TV or playing on your phone. Give yourself a check for each meal you're able to eat without distraction. And he has I don't know if you can see it, but he's got, there you go, how many times a day you're supposed to do it. See, so let's see, where am I at? Undistracted, see if you see the Undistracted Meals. There's 3 check boxes. 1 for breakfast, 1 for lunch, 1 for dinner. Okay, the next one is a 20-minute rule. And, other speakers have mentioned this as well, that, don't eat too fast. Slow down when you're eating. And there's, several different reasons why. But Dr. Greger says, whether through increasing viscosity or the number of chews or decreasing the bite size and eating rate, dozens of studies have demonstrated that no matter how we boost the amount of time food is in our mouths, it can result in lower calorie intake. So extend meal duration to at least 20 minutes to allow your natural satiety signals to take full effect. And the easiest way to do that, he says, how? By choosing foods that take longer to eat and eating them in a way that prolongs the time they stay in your mouth. Think bulkier, heartier, chewier foods and smaller, well-chewed bites. And Dr. Joel Fuhrman was one of the speakers today, and I think it was Dr. Fuhrman, one of the speakers. I'm sorry, I don't remember now. One of the 2 speakers today did mention that you need to, chew your food to a pulp to get the most benefits out of it. And then he talks about Chef AJ asked him about garlic, ginger, pepper, cumin, and then he also mentioned black cumin. Black cumin, he recommends, it's called actually Nigella sativa. He recommends a 1/4 teaspoon per day. And he says it's noted in the appetite suppression section of How Not to Die. Or excuse me, How Not to Diet. A systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled weight loss trials found that about a 1/4 teaspoon of black cumin powder every day appears to reduce body mass index within a span of a couple of months. Note that black cumin is different from regular cumin, for which the dosing is different. And I'll get to that in a minute. Because the next thing on the app is garlic powder. And he recommends a 1/4 teaspoon of that per day. Randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies have found that as little as a daily 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder can reduce body fat at a cost of perhaps 2 cents per day. And then you have ginger or cayenne pepper. If you use ground ginger, it's a teaspoon a day. If you choose cayenne pepper, it's half a teaspoon a day. When it comes to ginger, randomized control trials have found that 1/4 teaspoon to 1.5 teaspoons a day of ground ginger significantly decreased body weight for just pennies a day. It can be as easy as stirring the ground spice into a cup of hot water. Note, ginger may work better in the morning than evening. Chai tea is a tasty way to combine green tea, which he also recommends, and ginger tricks into a single beverage. Alternatively, for bat activation, and I don't know what that is, but alternatively, you can add 1 raw jalapeno pepper or a half teaspoon of red pepper powder, or presumably crushed red pepper flakes, into your daily diet. To help beat the heat, you can very thinly slice or finely chop the jalapeno to reduce its bite, or to little prickles, or mix the red pepper into soup or the whole food vegetable smoothie that he features in one of his cooking videos on nutritionfacts.org. And then the next on the 21 tweaks is nutritional yeast. Not for sure if Chef AJ mentioned it or if he mentioned it during his presentation today or yesterday, but with nutritional yeast, he said he recommends 2 teaspoons a day, and it contains the 2 teaspoons of baker's, brewer's, or nutritional yeast contains roughly the amount of beta-1 3:1:6 glucans. I don't know what that is, but those glucans were found in randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials to facilitate weight loss. And then he recommends half a teaspoon of regular cumin with lunch and dinner. And overweight women were randomized to add a half teaspoon of cumin to their lunches and dinners, beat out the control group by 4 more pounds and an extra inch off their waists. There is also evidence to support the use of the spice saffron, but a pinch a day would cost $1, whereas a teaspoon of cumin costs less than 10 cents. Yeah, saffron's like the most expensive spice on the planet. And then the rest of his 21 tweaks, he didn't really talk about in the presentation. So if you'd like to know more about them, you can visit nutritionfacts.org, or you can download the app, Nutrition Facts app. And I do recommend reading both of his books, How Not to Die and How Not to Diet. Absolutely phenomenal information.
It doesn't take that long, no, it's like a megabyte.
I don't remember what he says about what the real truth of weight loss is. See if I can review my notes again. I guess I didn't write that down. But he did, Dr. Greger did stress the importance of fiber in your diet. And then he also stressed the importance of getting enough thylakoids, which is the green engines of life where photosynthesis occurs. And it does help block fat absorption. And then the last note I have about what Dr. McGregor had to say was that because Chef AJ said that if 0-calorie sweeteners, or if diet drinks with 0-calorie sweeteners have 0 calories, then why are they a problem? And Dr. Greger said that research has shown that 0-calorie sweeteners impair weight loss because the sweet taste increases your appetite, so that you eat more at your next meal. And that mimics what another presenter said about research has found that people who drink 0-calorie sweetened drinks actually eat more than people who drink sugared drinks. So I know it was kind of a long explanation, but again, it only took him 40 minutes, but he talked so fast. But, his presentation was, as you can see, jam-packed full. The next presenter was Dr. Jose Oliveira, and she said that there's three resolutions or aspects of making, three things that make your resolutions stick, your resolution to lose weight. One is habits. You have to focus on healthy eating habits. 40% of what we do are based on habits. And she recommends that you focus on one habit at a time, but that it does take 66 days to form new habits. So if you get into the habit of not going to fast food, for me, I should say, if I want to get into the habit of not going to fast food, it's going to take me 66 days to form that habit. The next one was about fiber. She said there's no way to keep weight off without fiber, and only 3% of people eat enough fiber, which means, and then of the 97% that eat enough fiber, only back up. 3% of people, only 3% of people eat enough fiber. And of the 97% that don't eat enough fiber, only 1% of those eat whole grains. And she said that what fiber does is it dilutes the calories in food. It causes stomach distension. Basically, it causes your stomach to stretch so you feel full. It does delay stomach emptying. So the longer the food's in your stomach, the longer you feel full. It allows your body to dump excess calories. With more fiber, we absorb fewer calories. So how does your body get rid of the extra calories? Through, dumping, if you know what that means. And then it also does activate the ileal brake, and it's BRAKE, more quickly, and it improves your gut microbiota by producing short-chain fatty acids. The 3 fatty acids are acetate, propionate, and butyrate. And acetate increases fat burn. Propionate delays the emptying, and butyrate is what helps you. You've probably heard of the term leaky gut. Well, the butyrate is the one that tightens those junctions so that you don't have leaky gut anymore. And then the third suggestion is to stick to a low-fat, whole foods, plant-based diet. 43% of, she did mention that the reason that you really got to be careful with cheese is that 43% of cheese is saturated fat, so that's why it's so bad for you. But when you have more bad microbiota than good in our gut, the immune system is always fighting things in your bloodstream that are not supposed to be there. Hence, leaky gut, it leaks out stuff. And then that stuff that leaks out is in areas of the body where it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to, all of that bad stuff is supposed to stay, the bad microbiota are supposed to stay inside your gut and, be excreted. But if it leaks, then it's where it's not supposed to be. And then she explained the whole concept of fat cells. And that, how she, the best, I didn't write a whole lot of notes about it. But essentially what she said is that you are born with so many fat cells. And when you gain weight, they're like a balloon where they get bigger. And say you're born with like 20 fat cells. And so then you gain weight, your 20 fat cells stay at 20, they just get bigger, and then you lose weight, they shrink. But the more overweight you get, basically the more balloons you have. So you have more fat cells. And as you gain weight, those balloons get bigger and bigger. You have more balloons. And then when you lose weight, your balloons shrink, but you don't lose any balloons. So basically the only way to lose balloons would be like, or fat cells is, through surgery. Which one of the speakers today was, as she'd lost close to 200 pounds, and she finally got skin reduction or skin removal surgery, and so I'm sure a lot of that skin cells were fat cells. She did also mention about the length of meals, that they should be at least 20 minutes, and that can make a big difference. But then the last note I have for her is she mentioned that 24 grams of fiber, even though it has no calories, would be like eating 500 calories. I guess according to your gut and your
Rule number 1 about the group.
feeling satiated.
Rule number 2.
The next speaker was Dr. Marco Borges, and he did discuss the 5 pillars of wellness, and I'm sure that you can research it online.
What is that?
But he said that the 5 pillars are exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress management, and having a sense of community. And then I just have a few notes about exercise. That no amount of exercise will outrun the effects of a bad diet. That came from him. I know I mentioned it before. But that was actually Marco Borges that said that in the summit. And he said that you shouldn't have to think about exercise. That exercise has to be paired with nutrition. And he had, to get the best benefit. And he had, made the analogy that nutrition and exercise are like a PB&J. The peanut butter and the jelly are great by themselves, but when you put them together, they're even better. And then he said if you eat a whole food plant-based diet, you will take in the right amount of protein and fiber for your body. You don't have to worry about whether you're getting enough. It just happens automatically. And then he was talking about, why you have to stick with the whole foods plant-based diet. And he made the analogy of it's kind of that when you eat, and if you eat constantly, I know what it was. Chef AJ asked him about the recommendation of eating, 5 or 6 small meals a day instead of 3 individual meals. Yeah, small multiple meals versus fewer meals. He said, if you eat all day long, when does your body have a chance to clean up? And he used a party analogy that if you have a party after party after party after party and you don't clean, the parties are so close together that you don't have time to clean up after each party, your house gets to be a horrible mess, and it gets, it can get really nasty. And so he says it's the same with eating. If you eat, your body doesn't have a chance to clean up in between the meals. And so then that's when you have problems with, your intestines and insides or what have you, get to be really messy and nasty. And then it all stems down to, it can all sometimes stem down to how you view things and in what order. And Chef AJ's analogy was the difference between good morning, God, being positive, and good God morning being negative. So your why, you have to find your why. You don't want to show up 10 pounds lighter at a wedding you don't or when you when you want to, I had to remember, when you worry about losing 10 pounds for a wedding, you're not losing the weight because you want to show up 10 pounds lighter. you go through the process of losing the weight because you want to show up a better you. And the rest of it, oh well. My favorite thing that he said is when he was talking about fiber, is he said without poop you can't, or no, excuse me, back up. When he was talking about fiber, he said without fiber you can't poop the toxins out. And I thought that was kind of funny. And then the last two notes I have are kind of concepts that he has. The first one is that if you're having trouble, you have to remember that no one ever lost a fight because they fell down. They lost the fight because they stayed down. So, if you fall down, you have to get back up. And as long as you keep getting back up, you won't lose the fight. And then when he was asked, his real truth about weight loss is, you are never hopeless. You have every day to make a change. And again, he brought up the concept, the idea of progress over perfection. You can't always expect to be perfect. As long as you make progress, you'll get there. Okay. Again, a lot of information. And the last speaker before the cooking demonstration was Dr. Pam Peake. And she talked on why when you eat matters as much as what you eat. And, basically she talked about the circadian rhythm. And researcher Mark Mattson was the first to say nutrition is huge in preventing disease through time-restricted eating. And when you eat by the clock, you greatly benefit in health. Well, and then Dr. Peake said, when you eat by the clock, you greatly benefit in health and visceral fat melts away. And she recommended 14 hours of non-feeding and 10 hours of feeding because it did find a lot of benefits with health and weight loss. And she had a whole, a slide with 5 different people on it. And one of them was Dr. Panda. He found 8-hour eaters were lean and mean. Eating machines, killing machines. The 24-hour eaters were heavier despite both groups eating. Okay, so I'm looking at my notes. Sorry. What Dr. Panda did is he did a research study where he had one group, 2 groups of people. They were fed the exact same food, but one group was told to eat only within an 8-hour window, and the other group was told there was no restrictions on when they could eat it, as long as they ate all the food in 24 hours. And after the study was done, he found that the eaters who didn't restrict the time that they ate, but just ate the same thing in 24 hours as those who were restricted to 8 hours, those participants were heavier despite having the exact same food. And then there was a Dr. Long from the USC Longevity Institute. his research has found that you do live longer by eating in a smaller window. She said that Dr. Peake said that no matter what genes you're born with, you can make a huge impact by what and when you eat. And she did say that a minimum of 12 hours of non-feeding is required. So you can do a 12-12, you could do 10-14, or you can do 16-8. Yeah, 16-8. Optimally, you want to do the 16-8, but the study from 14-10 found some of the same benefits. There just wasn't quite as effective as the 16-8. And then the circadian rhythm studies also showed that insulin follows a natural biorhythm, with it ramping up in the morning and midday. So it is best that you eat the majority of your meals earlier in the day. And even with no calorie or nutrient restriction, research has found that the closer to 14 hours that you go to non-feeding, the more housekeeping takes place within your body. When you don't eat for a while, your body gets more efficient at taking in and using fuel. So, as a wrap up, she said, make sure you honor the clock. You feed 8 to 12 hours. You regenerate 12 to 16. You sleep 7 to 8 of those 12 to 16 hours. You move. Now, the moves include not only planned exercise, but also your activities of daily living. So, like eating, feeding, bathing, preparing meals, just whatever getting dressed, walking, whatever you do on a regular daily basis. All that counts as movement. And you have to seek daylight. And preferably that daylight should be outdoors. And the lux has to deal with like lumens, sorry. So you need to have at least 20 lumens for at least an hour or per hour that you're awake. And then you also need to control evening light. So you want to make sure that you have 20 lumens or less. So, don't sleep with the TV on. Don't sleep with your phone or nightlight. But preferably sleep in the dark. Take a deep breath. We only have the cook left. The cooking demonstration left, and it was Kitchen Hacks by Chef Katie May. I didn't write a whole lot of notes down for her. Didn't really write any notes down for her because she had a really bad connection, and it was kind of hard to follow her. But she made a borscht and I forgot what else she made, but she made a borscht. And when Chef AJ asked her, what is the real truth to weight loss? She said, weight loss is secondary to enjoying life. So as long as you enjoy your life, that has to come before weight loss. I don't know. I don't get that one, but anyway. So that was yesterday's Real Truth About Weight Loss Summit review. I know this is a long video, but again, it was a lot of information. Every single presentation is absolutely jam-packed. But as as I have been doing, I'll put a link to the summit in a description box below. You can still purchase it. I don't know if it's at the discounted rate still or not. If it is still available, the discounted rate, it will only be until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, when it's 24 hours after the summit or started today. But I do believe it will still be available to purchase. After that, it will just be full price. And and the money's used to bring the weight loss summit to you every year. And I've really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of information. It's taken up a lot of time, but I've really enjoyed it. Well, that's the video for today. As long as it is, I'm done talking. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when I upload the video each day. And in the meantime, you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.